everybody, Ellen here. Today I come to you guys with a book haul. So it's been such a long time since I filmed anything, so we'll see how this goes. But yeah, I have like 7 or 8 books to talk about, and these are books I've bought in the last few months, so it's not that bad, right? 7 books, it's not too bad. So yeah, let's get to it. So we do have some really beautiful classics. So this is Persuasion by Jane Austen. This is the Barnes & Noble classics, is that what they call them? And this is like one of her books that I haven't read yet, and yet I own 2 copies, I think. Whoops. But I just saw this in my favorite store, science fiction bookstore, and I could not like skip it, and it's so beautiful everywhere. And I don't really know what it's about, but I'm guessing it's about finding love like all of her books. But it says on the back, one man's ways be as good as another's, but we all like our own best. Then we have one of my favorite classics, so of course I need to own another edition of it. So this is the Wonderful Wizard of Oz by Frank Baum. This is the illustrated edition by Mina Lima with like interactive elements, and I do have a couple of their books, so I needed to have it. Like, check out the yellow brick road with all the characters on it and stuff. So it was a couple of years ago that I read The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, but I loved it. I gave it 5 stars, and I just needed to have another copy. And I think probably most people know what this is about, but basically it's about Dorothy, and she ends up in this sort of strange land when there's a tornado, and she and her dogs end up here, and they meet witches, and of course the lion, the scarecrow, and the woodman. And yeah, they go on adventures trying to find the Wonderful Wizard of Oz so they can make all of their wishes come true. And yeah, then we have like a mistake by I was in the physical store. I usually look up Goodreads, but I didn't because I thought I knew what I was doing, but apparently I did not. So this is The Hunger of the Gods by John Gwynne, and this is book 2 in the series called The Bloodsworn, and I do not own book 1. So I've been seeing this book on their shelves for months and months, and I always like skipped it. I didn't pick it up because I knew it was book 2, and then 6 months later, here I am picking it up because I forgot it's book 2 and not book 1. And they don't have book 1 in the physical store from Orbit, which is the publisher I do want it because they're floppy and big. So yeah, I own book 2, so now I have to buy book 1. Whoopsie. Then we have Unlocked by Shannon Messenger. This is book 8.5 in the series called Keeper of the Lost Cities. This, I think, is supposed to be mostly like, besides really pretty maps, I think it's supposed to be kind of character descriptions, character files, medical records for Sophie Foster, the main character, and like I think there's supposed to be a novella from Fitz's point of view and stuff like that. There's some illustrations and stuff, so it's not really like a full-length novel. It's more like little tidbits and extras for people who really like the series, which I do, obviously, since I own like all of the other ones in the series. But in the first book we meet Sophie Foster, and she finds out that she is not human, she's in fact an elf, and she ends up going to the land of elves, and she gets to learn how to use her magic and discover things about herself she didn't know while going to this sort of magical school and stuff. And she meet a bunch of awesome friends, and I all love them, and this series is so freaking good. It's definitely one of my favorite series of all time, definitely one of my favorite Milgram series, so if you haven't picked this up, do. Sunkissed by Casey West. Casey West is one of my favorite contemporary authors. She's also one of my autobiography authors. And I do have, I don't know if you can see that, quite a lot of her books right here. I have a couple more down there. So yeah, I just needed to get my hands on this, and this has been out for a while because, you know, I was on a book buying ban for a while, so I didn't get it when it came out. But this one we meet Avery, and she and her family goes on this sort of vacation out in the woods, and there's like no social media or anything like that allowed. And Then she meets this frustratingly charming guy named Brooks, and he's on the staff, which means he's off limits, but of course sparks fly. So yeah, I really look forward to reading this one, and I think maybe, I can't promise anything, but maybe this will be my next read because I need something quick. Then we have another one of my authors, because I do have a few these days, but this is I Must Betray You by Ruta Pettis. This is her newest historical fiction book, and this one is supposed to take place in Romania in 1989. This is so ridiculously floppy, I love it. But in this one we meet 17-year-old Christian Floreso, and lives in Romania during the communist regimes, and it's crumbling across Europe. Amid the tyrannical dictatorship of Nicole Ceausescu, sorry for butchering all the names, in a country governed by isolation and fear, Christian is blackmailed by the secret police to become an informer. He's left with only two choices: betray everyone and everything he loves, or use his position to creatively undermine the most notoriously evil dictator in Eastern Europe. And Christian basically risks everything to master truth behind the regime, giving voice to the fellow Romanians. And stuff happens, and there's a revolution going on. So I really love all of Ruta Pettis' other books. So I really look forward to reading this one, and I think it will be a very quick read. So The Time of Dread by John Gwynne. This is the second book in a Blood and Bone series, and I originally bought this or ordered it a few months ago, but it ended up being cancelled because they didn't have it in stock. So I only got the third book home, and I still didn't have the second one. So I mean, couldn't continue the series. But yeah, John Gwynne is one of my favorite authors. I'm obsessed with the Faithful and the Fallen series, which is right here on my honor shelf. And this series takes place, it's sort of takes place like 100 years. I don't remember how long after it is, but about 100 years after the Faithful and the Fallen series. So it does take place in the same world. There's some characters that are still alive, and we also get sort of like backgrounds and sort of explanations of what happened to the characters from the original series, and I loved all of that. But also John Gwynne is such a master of creating worlds and characters, and you can't help but love everyone. And so far, since I've only read the first book in this series, I definitely prefer the Faithful and the Fallen series, but this series is really good as well. So basically, in the first book we meet a couple of different characters, and what I like is that you always get to know sort of the good guys and the bad guys. And one of the main characters, I forget her name, is part of the Benalim, which are basically sort of these angel-like creatures that trying to make sure everyone on Earth is good. And then we have sort of these demon-like creatures that are, you know, for the evil and trying to take over the world, like all the fantasy series we know. But yeah, I really enjoyed the first book, so I really look forward to reading this one. So yeah, these are all the books I bought the last few months. So I'm really looking forward to reading all of these, so I don't really know which one to start with, but we'll figure it out. But yeah, if you like this video, please don't forget to give me some thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, I hope we see each other in the next one. Bye!